right, we're bringing on our friend Scott Perry, Pennsylvania 10th Congressional District. I don't bring members who are running for re-election or people running for open seats on unless they need our help. And Scott Perry's been targeted by the Liz Cheney Trump derangement syndrome Republicans. He's being targeted by the George Soros Democrats. So you know he's doing something right because they want to take him out. Scott, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Mark, and thanks so much for having me on. We're fighting it out here in central Pennsylvania. You know, people are saying that whatever happens in Pennsylvania is going to determine the fate of our country and, quite honestly, the fate of the world. And that's no more exemplified by what's happening in the 10th District, as you said, targeted by, you know, so-called Republicans that are rhinos and, of course, the George Soros left, and they're plowing millions of dollars in. And, Mark, you know me. Look, I say things that that other people don't want to say because they're weak. I stick up for Israel. People don't want to do that because they're weak. And what they do when you do those things is they come after you, which is what's happening now. Can't lose it, though.
I want you to remind people a little bit about your background, which is really quite stellar.
Well, look, I'm living the American dream, right? I grew up in a single parent household. My mother, really, really tough road to hoe, but, you know, she made it, and she wanted something better for her kids. We grew up in a house with no electricity, no running water. We had an outhouse, no insulation in Pennsylvania. It gets cold. I was the first in my family to go to college. I was the first to start a business. I joined the Army as a private. I retired as a general. I flew in combat. I commanded troops. And, you know, I've been elected to the singular most important legislative, deliberative body on the planet. That's the American dream, but it's slipping away. You know, it's slipping away for a lot of Americans, and that's why I decided to run, because we can't let this happen. My wife and I have two beautiful young daughters, and we want them to have the American dream. We want the people in the country, in the suburbs, in the inner city. We want everybody to have a shot, and you know, and I've been able to live it. And we want everybody else to have that. But, you know, the socialists and the Marxists, you know, they want to transform America. And when you stand up against that, Mark, like you do every day on your show, you know, they come for you, too. Mm-hmm. They come for all of us.
This really is an anti-American revolution in so many ways. And look at these pathetic retired generals, the lies that they're saying and the timing of them. We haven't had pathetic generals like this since Lincoln had to deal with many pathetic generals, too. And they're selling out their own former men and women in uniform. Can you imagine Kamala Harris, Commander-in-Chief, and what she would do to our armed services, Scott Perry?
No, I really can't. You know, we just saw the American government, somebody in America, you know, put out classified information, reveal classified information, very damaging to Israel, who's in a war. And we see a commander-in-chief now, and one that would potentially be commander-in-chief, that just doesn't recognize the threat of somebody like Iran or Russia or China. And you can't have somebody like that leading from the front because, look, as you know this, Mark, recruiting is at the lowest level since pre-World War II. Nobody wants to they don't want to potentially sacrifice their life for the ideology of the left. They believe in a country that's strong, that rewards people on merit and fights for freedom. They don't believe in this woke utopia that Kamala Harris wants to preside over, where, you know, the global elitists run the country and you go fight their wars. Nobody wants to be a part of that. Very dangerous, very provocative. Our enemies know it. That's why they're testing us. And God forbid if Kamala Harris becomes the president, there's no telling what's going to happen internationally. Of course, people are suffering now at home. They can't afford their groceries. They can't afford to pay their electricity bills. It's only going to get much worse with her as president.
Yeah, and she has no plan to do anything other than make it worse. She doesn't believe in the private sector. She doesn't believe in small businesses. Even union members are starting to see what the hell's going on here. She doesn't care about the average man, the average woman. The vast majority of her money is coming from these Democrat billionaire oligarchs. She's hiding her real belief. She will destroy the American auto industry. She will destroy the American oil business. She's going to keep that border wide open until there's 100 million illegal aliens in here, and this country will never look the same again because they don't believe in this country. They don't believe in the founding of this country. And yet, Scott Perry, they're very effective with their propaganda, as are all Marxists, quite frankly, which is they're the ones standing for the American Constitution and what it says. They're the ones standing for the rule of laws. They try and put Donald Trump in prison for the rest of his life. Now, let's go back to your district. Remind everybody of some of the towns that are in the 10th district.
So this is the wonderful 10th District of Pennsylvania. It includes Harrisburg, the state capital. It includes Chocolatetown, USA, Hershey. It includes York, home of the York Peppermint Patty and York Barbell. And it includes Carlisle, the home of the U.S. Army War College. This is a great place to bring up a family. It's a great place to live. Pennsylvania is full of great, hardworking people. But unfortunately, they recruited a candidate that doesn't even live here. She doesn't live in the district, but she was on TV for 38 years reading a teleprompter, so people know her. And then they've coupled that with millions of dollars in lies about me and, quite honestly, about her, telling, she's for transgender surgeries for illegals and for prisoners, but she doesn't want to admit it. And she's for raising your taxes, and she's for more illegals coming into the country, but she doesn't want to admit it. And, of course, you don't have to admit it when you have millions of dollars from George Soros buying all your ads, and that's exactly what we're dealing with here.
What is her name?
What is her name?
Yeah.
Her name is Janelle Stelzner. She worked for NBC, where she lied to everybody under NBC's banner for 38 years.
How close is this, Scott Perry?
Well, we think it's a point or two.
Oh, my God.
It's hard to tell, but we think it's a point or two, and we can't have it go the wrong way, Mark, because if we lose Pennsylvania, there's a good chance that the president doesn't win, his election, and we lose the country. So and they know that. That's why this is the number one targeted race.
We're talking to Scott Perry, a great patriot who could lose his seat if we don't help him. His site is patriotsforperry.com. Scott Perry, I've decided what the Democrats did when they decided they needed to replace Biden. They decided we are going to have to outspend for the presidential, Senate, and congressional races our opponents massively, 3-4 to 1. So they go to their billionaire oligarchs who pour in enormous sums of money. They say, number two, we can't run on what we actually believe. It's so anti-American. It's so radical that we'll lose in a landslide. So we got to use that money to do two things. To lie completely about what we believe. That is, pretend we're sort of moderates who are bipartisan and love our country, and they're none of that. And then we have to character assassinate all of our opponents, because I have to tell you, Scott Perry, in your district and every district in the country, and every Senate seat in the country, and of course the presidential election, this isn't a race between real ideas, ours and theirs. This is a race between trying to tell the truth and pathological liars. Am I right?
No, you're absolutely. It's been lying about me for a year, and what's worse, it's really disrespectful to my family, the things she's been saying. She doesn't know anything about the experiences that we had as a family and having children, the things that my wife went through. She doesn't know anything about my mother, how my mother, I'm a second-generation immigrant. My mother came to this, her mother came to this country with the clothes on her back. My mother suffered at horrific abuse at the hands of her father, and my mother made it out of that and made something of herself and something of her family. And to have these people go out and say the things that they're saying about us, that I would not allow health care for women that had a miscarriage, it is stunningly so objectionable to me. And they walk around straight-faced with it. But Mark, we should know this, because Nancy Pelosi told all of them, at any cost, you will do whatever's necessary. They don't care. They have no honor. They have no standards of decorum. They disregard the truth. They just care about their power.
Let's take this abortion issue. They said there'll be a national ban on abortion. I mean, can you see that passing the Senate? And then Donald Trump says, no, I'm not going to sign anything like that. What is it here? They got to scare to death these women who support abortion. Many of them are single without children and so forth, but they have to scare them to death. When in fact they don't support even Roe v. Wade. They support something so extreme this country's never even entertained the idea of partial birth abortion, post-abortion infanticide, which is what Walt signed for. no parental notification, no parental notification. It goes on and on and on. And so this is not what the American people believe. So they know that. And so they lie about their position on abortion and Trump and the Republican position on abortion.
You're exactly right, Mark. That's what they've done with me. I've served in Congress. I've never changed my position. I don't believe in taxpayer-funded abortions, but I make exceptions for rape, incest, the life of the mother. Yeah. And I'm the prime sponsor of the IVF protection bill in the House of Representatives. But they're out telling people that I don't believe that women should have health care and should not be able to, to care for their bodies and their loved ones and their children. It is outrageous, but and they do the same thing to the president. They just disregard the facts. And Mark, they've got millions of dollars to spread these lies across the TV, across internet, across radio. And there are a certain amount of people that believe this stuff. If they hear it enough, as you know, if you tell a lie enough times, there's a certain amount of people that are going to believe it.
What does it look like in your district in Pennsylvania? One of the things that troubles me, Scott Perry, is our friends, our allies in the media. They almost seem giddy already. That is, oh, look at this. We have, early voting, and our numbers are higher than they were last time. 1 million Democrats have voted early and 580,000 Republicans in Pennsylvania as of yesterday morning's data. That's not good enough. That doesn't mean we won't win, but that's not good enough. You see my point? My point is you can't let your guard down. You got to win. You got to race right up to Election Day. It's like a military operation, a political operation. You don't start celebrating and get giddy and cocky in advance, right?
No, you would never do that. You're right. You have to fight the whole way through. In sports, you play to the whistle, and that's what we're going to do in Pennsylvania. That's what the president's doing. He's been in Pennsylvania. He will be coming back. J.D. Vance is here. We are all working 24 hours a day, around the clock is what we're doing to make sure that we bring this home. We take nothing for granted. We're calling individual voters. We're visiting them. We're talking to them so that they know. Many voters are concerned. They're confused about the things they see on TV or hear on the radio. So we call them. We talk to them. We set them straight about what the facts are. We're going to earn this thing, Mark. It's not going to be easy, but we have no choice, because if we don't, said they will import 20 million more people here illegal. Do you know that they have brought in 13,000 convicted murderers and let them free in the country over the last 4 years? They're wandering around killing our citizens, and they won't. And that's what we're just going to get more of that if we allow them to win. So we're just not going to do it. Scott
Perry is a representative in Pennsylvania, but he's one of America's representatives because they vote on these issues nationally. He could sure use your help. Patriots for Perry.com. Scott Perry, I want to play you a clip from Kamala Harris on Univision today. Listen very carefully to this. Cut 12, Mr. Producer. Go.
Right now we're talking about border security, and there's no Democrat talking about pathway to citizenship, and immigration relief, and the benefits that migrants bring to this country.
Oh, but there's no question that migrants bring. America is a country that was built in part by immigrants.
But people are concerned about their TPS, their DACA, we're talking about mass deportations.
I'm not talking about.
What do you stand on mass deportations? What's your stand there?
We need smart, humane immigration policy in America that includes a pathway to citizenship.
Pathway to citizenship. That's amnesty. She wants to give amnesty to 20 million people, for all I know. And we haven't even vetted them. We don't even know who the hell these people are. Mass amnesty. That's been the plan from day one against the American citizens, hasn't it?
That's exactly right. It's not smart or humane to the American citizen when you're importing murderers by the tens of thousands, cartel members, drug dealers, and terrorists. It's not humane to the American people. It wasn't humane to Jocelyn Nungare or Laken Riley or any of the other, how many thousand American women that have been raped and brutally murdered by these people that don't belong here. And she's talking about a pathway to citizenship. Mark, you know what that is. This is a pathway to voting Democrat. That's what it is, and that's what they have always wanted. We were lied to when they said they will never be on the Affordable Care Act. They will never get public paid for health care, but yet they are getting public paid for health care and everything else. And so we should not be fooled by this. The plan is to have them come here, and the plan is to have them to vote Democrat so they can transform America into a place it was never intended to be, and disregard your vote and your voice and your opinion as American citizens. They don't care what you think. They care what they think.
And I want the people in your district and all other hardworking Americans who are really up against it, trying to afford food and housing and utilities and all the rest of it, under this so-called fantastic bill, which, by the way, 6 Democrats voted against. She lies through her teeth about that, too. Donald Trump stopped it. No, everybody stopped it. It was stopped by a bipartisan vote in the Senate, and not a single House member would have voted for this damn thing on the Republican side at all. But that said, it would require you, Mr. and Mrs. America, to fund taxpayer-funded lawyers for illegal aliens to challenge their status. It would take catch and release. It would make it a law, which it is not today. So if Donald Trump's elected president, he couldn't even reverse it without the consent of the Senate, which won't do it. They have a filibuster power. It would put in place 2 million illegal aliens that we know of, probably 5. That would be in place because there were so many loopholes in the 5 million a day, according to CIS, that it could be 8 to 10 million a day. 8 to 10,000 a day. So it's so outrageous. It's so outrageous. This woman will destroy the country. She's got no moral core. She's a radical. She was a radical hard leftist, the biggest hard leftist in the Senate. She was the worst vice president in American history, according to people 6 months ago. She can't keep her staff. 92% of her vice presidential staff resigned, including her chief of staff and comms director. She's a fake, a fraud, and a phony. And they're spending $1 billion to try and recreate her, to have you vote for a fiction as they're trying to recreate Donald Trump. And as they're trying to recreate our friend Scott Perry. You folks in the 10th District, you're very lucky to have this man. I want to strongly encourage you to vote for him as I've endorsed him. And please go to patriotsforperry.com. And if you haven't voted early, vote, for God's sakes. Scott Perry, my wife says hello, by the way, and we wish you all the best, my friend.
Well, your wife is wonderful, as we both know, and thank you for this opportunity, Mark. We have just less than 2 weeks to save our republic, and anything worth having is worth fighting for, but we're going to have to fight for this. And so I would encourage everybody, let's do it the civil way. Let's get out and make sure we vote. You can vote early in Pennsylvania. You can vote right now. Do not let anything to chance. We must vote for President Trump. We've got a guy named Dave McCormick here running for the United States Senate. We got to get him there. We got to make sure that we have a House of Representatives that is led by Republicans, because even if Donald Trump wins, if the House goes to the Democrats, they will start impeachment proceedings immediately on day one. So we will get nothing done to save our country. So everybody has to be in this, and everybody has to have their voice heard.
All hands on deck. This is a 5-alarm fire. Scott Perry, God bless you and good luck, my brother.
God bless you, Mark. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Patriotsforperry.com. Thank you.
There you go. Very, very important that you folks in that district, that you hold on to this man.